The moment I challenged the human to a duel, half the galactic command deck leaned in like they were about to watch a car crash. Not a battle, not a noble fight, a crash. Something violent, stupid, and impossible to look away from. I was commander. Valzor of the Voltex Empire, third spear of conquest, knight of the Tri-Systems, bane of the Hollow Worlds. My record was flawless, my victories numbered in the thousands. I had reduced civilizations to rubble for infractions smaller than smiling at me funny, and yet there he stood, the human, wearing cargo pants, an old jacket with NASA stitched on it, and, for reasons I still cannot comprehend, mismatched socks. No body armor, no weapons, just a half-eaten granola bar sticking out of his mouth and a grin that could only mean one thing. I was already doomed. The Empire had warned us about humans, of course. The pamphlets were very clear. Primitive but amusing, emotionally unstable. Handle with care. Avoid unnecessary engagement. Handle with care, translated in Empire speak, to kick them aside if they annoy you. And today, oh today, I was annoyed. It had started harmlessly. Small altercation in the mess hall, an offhanded comment about how humans barely qualified as a species. He had shrugged, taken another bite of his snack and said, "Wanna prove it?" I thought he meant a debate. He meant a fight. And once a public combat challenge was issued aboard an Empire station, it could not be rescinded without disgrace. My reputation, my honor, they demanded satisfaction. And besides, he was a human. What could he possibly do? The command deck's combat circle activated, energy fields rose. Bets were placed faster than plasma bolts at a firefight. The station's AI even launched a novelty countdown with dramatic drum rolls. Across the viewing platforms, Empire officers watched with lazy, predatory amusement. A few of the other species, particularly the Kryvex and the Sarathi, had gathered with recording devices. This was going to be glorious. The horn blared. I advanced, no, charged, the way my instructors taught me. Overwhelming. Force blitz tactics, no mercy. The human lead stepped aside like he was avoiding a puddle. I blinked. No matter. I corrected course, spinning into a strike meant to shatter ribs. He leaned back by exactly 3 inches. My strike whooshed past his face. He had the audacity to yawn. Now the cheering faded into confused murmurs. The third strike should have ended. Him, a faint high sweep low training 101. He hopped over the sweep with a lazy little jump like a drunk gazelle and patted my shoulder as he landed behind me. Patted my shoulder like a consoling uncle. Almost got me, big guy. You're doing great. I roared, whirling around, blood boiling. That's when he hit me. It wasn't even a punch, it was a flick. 2 fingers to the side of my neck. I didn't understand at first. My body locked. Legs froze. Vision blurred. The floor rose to meet me. At an alarming speed. The last thing I saw before blacking out was the human walking away, casually waving to the crowd like he'd just finished a karaoke set at a bar. When I woke up, I was in the infirmary, alone, stripped of rank, wearing a medical gown 3 sizes too small. The monitors beeped mockingly, floating above me, attached. To the medbay ceiling by adhesive hooks was a giant banner. "Welcome back, champ." And sitting neatly on the table beside my cot was a half-eaten granola bar. A note was scribbled on it, "Train harder. We'll rematch after your ego recovers. Love, Jax." Across the Empire's communications network, the footage had already gone viral. The headline blared, "Empire's elite commander folded like a lawn chair. Humans 1, Voltex 0. Across Earth, memes spread faster than infection." One particularly popular one had my stunned expression photoshopped onto a cartoon turtle, flipping over on its shell with the caption, "When you challenge a human and forget they invented bar fights." Meanwhile, in the Empire's High Council chambers, the mood was tense. Admiral Krovax, supreme tactician of the Voltex Armada, leaned back in his throne of carved basalt, his 6 eyes twitching in disbelief. The humans were not supposed to be a threat. They were supposed to be a sideshow, a galactic petting zoo at best. Instead, one unarmed corporal had humiliated a decorated commander in under 30 seconds. "This cannot stand," Krovax hissed to the gathered council. "Our honor demands retribution. He slammed a fist onto the war table. The holographic star charts rippled under the force. "Prepare a formal ultimatum," he barked. "We will teach these apes their place." Back at Earth Central Command, Admiral Monroe received the Empire's ultimatum transmission with all the gravitas of a man checking junk mail. He cracked open a can of soda, slurped it loudly, and forwarded the message to his chief of memes, an actual department in the human military, founded after the Great Banter Wars of 2137. The reply he drafted was short, professional, and broadcasted galaxy-wide. "Earth declines your invitation to surrender. However, we are willing to schedule another beatdown at your earliest convenience. BYOB, bring your own bandages. Regards, humanity." The message was punctuated with a short video clip, the footage of Jax casually flipping me onto the ground. In slow motion, replayed 5 times to the beat of Stayin' Alive. The war hadn't even officially started, and somehow the Empire was already losing. The Empire's response came faster than expected. 1 hour after Earth's BYOB broadcast, 20 Dominion warships dropped out of hyperspace around Outpost. Ryvac 7, no declarations, no warning shots, just plasma cannons spinning up, ready to blast the station and everyone inside it into space dust. Commander Thrallvac, interim captain after my unfortunate incident, tried to negotiate. The human response, a single file transmission barely 2 seconds long. Una reverse card activated. Good luck, nerds. The Empire ships opened fire anyway. That's when things went sideways. The humans, not he. Stationed in the command center, not wearing battle armor, not carrying any heavy weapon, simply vanished. 1 second they were casually lounging at the station bar. The next, they melted into the walls like smoke. Meanwhile, our tactical officers barked orders, sensors scrambled to lock targets, and weapons officers howled about phantom signatures. "What sorcery is this?" Thrallvac demanded, slamming a fist into the console. Across the observation window, dozens of small, glittering objects floated out from the station's docking bays, irregular, chaotic, and absurd. Balloons. Literal helium balloons. Each carried a small beeping device. Our flagship, Vengeance of Voltex, locked onto the nearest balloon and vaporized it with a single plasma burst. The entire bridge cheered, until the ship's internal alarms started howling like wounded animals, a virus, worming through our systems, chewing through firewalls like acid. Secondary shields dropped, weapons deactivated. Main propulsion began randomly firing in bursts, sending the mighty dreadnought spinning like a drunken ice skater. On the bridge of the Pride of Drezok, Admiral Krovax watched in horror as his fleet spun helplessly, ships colliding like bumper cars. "What is happening?" he shrieked, voice cracking. One of his lieutenants, grim-faced, turned from the diagnostics console. "Sir, it appears the humans' weaponized party favors." Meanwhile, inside Ryvac 7, the humans were executing what could only be described as coordinated nonsense. A human team led by Sergeant Linda Reyes, callsign Chaos Gremlin, duct-taped 3 stolen plasma rifles into a shopping cart, aimed it at the incoming boarding party, and shoved it down the corridor. The cart wobbled, wildly sparks flying from its wheels, before flipping over and detonating like a miniature sun. 2 entire boarding squads were vaporized instantly, not even a scratch on the humans. They were already 3 corridors away, slapping Wile E. Coyote stickers onto abandoned Empire gear. Thrallvac, sweating through his uniform, tried to rally his forces. He barked into the command net. "Regroup. Regroup at Sector C-19. Crush these primitives." Sector C-19 never responded, because Sector C-19 was, at that moment, being used by humans to host an impromptu barbecue with a full brass band. The humans had hijacked the station's atmospheric controls, flooding C-19 with oxygen-rich air and blasting Sweet Home Alabama at maximum volume. Empire troops arriving to reclaim the sector were greeted with grilled meats, free beer, and a 5-person wrestling match featuring someone in a dinosaur. Costume labeled Galactic Heavyweight Champion. Half the Empire forces didn't even engage. They just stood there, weapons lowered, visibly questioning every life choice that had brought them here. Admiral Krovax, clutching his 6 foreheads, in disbelief, watched from his command throne. "This is not warfare," he roared. "This is—" He struggled for words. "Performance art," one of his aides suggested grimly. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Admiral Monroe cracked open another soda, kicked his feet up on the briefing table, and grinned. At the warfeed, the Secretary of Defense leaned over his shoulder. "Are we worried?" she asked, eyebrow raised. Monroe snorted. "Worried? Nah, we haven't even started being stupid yet." Meanwhile, aboard the Empire flagship, desperate measures were being taken. Krovax issued a direct command. Deploy the graviton suppression teams. Crush them physically. If their minds are broken, their bodies will follow. Massive mechanical exosuits, each the size of a dropship, stomped out of launch bays. Their pilots, elite enforcers from the Empire's most brutal regiments, were personally hand-picked to bring annihilation. The humans met this escalation with skateboards, actual ancient Earth skateboards. Sergeant Reyes and her team had rigged electromagnetic boots to stick to the deck plates at will. They zipped and weaved under the graviton mechs, tagging critical servos with what appeared to be sticky notes. Each note had a simple, handwritten message: "This spot for immediate failure." Moments later, one by one, the towering mechs buckled at the knees, toppling like drunks in a hurricane. The humans zipped past the wreckage, whooping and hollering, leaving trails of neon graffiti behind them. Commander Thralvak, standing among the chaos, finally snapped. He pulled the emergency evacuation beacon, activating system-wide retreat orders. In the span of minutes, the mighty Dominion assault fleet was reduced to a disorganized, demoralized mess. Ships fled. Soldiers abandoned their posts. Some simply sat down, shell-shocked, and began quietly humming along to Sweet Home Alabama as humans distributed more free beer. By the time the dust cleared, Rayvac 7 was still floating serenely in orbit, completely intact, and humans were hosting a victory karaoke night in the main hangar. The Empire had not only failed to conquer the station, they had somehow ended up looking like the entertainment and, worse, footage of the entire debacle had already been packaged, edited, and uploaded to HumanNet under a new trending title: "Empire tries to invade Earthlings, gets curb-stomped by skateboards and BBQ." Trending Dupra-1 galaxy-wide. In the Empire's High Council chambers, Krovax slumped into his basalt throne, eyes hollow, voice a whisper. This was supposed to be easy. The other council members said nothing. The humans had turned war into a circus, and the Empire was the clown. Commander Thralvak didn't sleep. No one in the Empire command structure did. Reports flooded in by the hour. Dominion troops requesting asylum with humans, entire assault ships defecting because they liked the vibe. A broadcast titled "How to Lose a War in Under 5 Minutes," winning awards on HumanNet for Best Comedy. It wasn't just a defeat, it was a cultural collapse. The Empire needed a miracle, or at least they needed their enemies to stop laughing. Desperation breeds stupidity, and stupidity breeds bad decisions. High Admiral Krovax convened an emergency council. There, in the cold shadows of the Imperial Spire, he unveiled the last resort, the resonator, an ancient forbidden technology. Not a bomb, not a virus. Something far worse. A targeted, psychological weapon. The resonator didn't destroy ships, it didn't kill soldiers. It shattered confidence. It could turn hardened warriors into weeping cowards, collapse empires from within, reduce armies to gibbering wrecks without firing a shot. "Shall deploy it," Krovax declared, teeth bared. "We will sever the human spirit at the root." The council voted unanimously, out of fear, out of pride, out of sheer blind panic. Meanwhile, aboard Earth's Central Command Station, Admiral Monroe played darts while half listening to intercepted Empire transmissions. The instant he heard the word resonator, he laughed so hard he missed the dartboard entirely. "Finally," he said, wiping tears from his eyes, "took 'em long enough." The humans had known about the resonator for years. They had contingency plans, plural, mostly filed under the department humorously titled "Weird Alien Stuff That Might Try to Break Our Brains." Their countermeasure was already live. It had been live for decades. It was called the Internet. The resonator was launched discreetly, a pinpoint psychic pulse transmitted through deep space resonance fields aimed directly at Earth's collective consciousness. On the Dominion flagship, the tech officers leaned over their consoles, whispering excitedly, "It's working. Look, their networks are destabilizing." Indeed, signals flared across HumanNet. Thousands of devices picked up the pulse. Brainwaves fluctuated. The Empire braced for humanity's collapse. And then they saw the results. Earth didn't collapse. It got worse. The resonator didn't destabilize humanity. It destabilized whatever thin layer of sanity they were pretending to have left. Within hours, Earth's global networks exploded into chaos. 20 million people simultaneously changed their social media profiles to Banana Overlord without explanation. Memes featuring photoshopped alien leaders crying into bowls of cereal flooded the net. The world's largest coordinated prank began, humans pretending Earth had been taken over by sentient ducks and sending formal declarations of duck-based sovereignty to the Empire. Duck Earth trended galactic-wide. At one point, the Empire received a formal negotiation request, signed by President Quackers and featuring a 10-hour loop of actual ducks quacking at various speeds. Inside the Empire's high command, confusion reigned. It's mutating, one of the analysts screamed, pointing at the charts. Instead of collapsing, they're weaponizing the madness. Krovac stared in horror. Instead of breaking, humanity had turned the resonator into fuel. Their chaos wasn't a weakness, it was an adaptive weapon. The more you tried to destabilize them, the more dangerous they became. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Monroe leaned back in his chair, sipping coffee from a mug that said, "World's #1 Duck Overlord." He smirked at the transmission coming in from the Empire. It was a single, desperate plea. "What do you want from us?" He tapped the mic and replied, "First, you're gonna quack for us." And without hesitation, across the Empire's formal diplomatic channel, the High Admirals of Voltex were forced to issue the first official galactic-level quack in recorded history. It was broadcasted. It was recorded. It was memed. It was devastating. The poem. Resonator had backfired catastrophically. The Empire had tried to break humanity's mind. Instead, they triggered a cultural supernova. Memes, mockery, mass insubordination among Empire troops, who were now calling each other Quack Commander and refusing orders unless delivered in duck-based puns. Entire divisions folded, fleet officers defected, star systems seceded overnight, citing inadequate Quack representation. And amidst the madness, humanity prepared their final move. The ducks were just the beginning. Now it was time to unveil the ultimate humiliation, Operation Breadstick. Back on Earth, Monroe grinned wickedly as his team activated the final phase. Every human ship, military and civilian, changed their official transponder codes to Red Lobster. Your table is ready. And then, coordinated across thousands of fleets, humanity made their move. Not a strike, not an invasion, an open invitation. Thousands of automated, perfectly polite messages were transmitted into Voltex-controlled systems. Thank you for waiting. Your table is now available at Red Lobster Galactic. Please proceed to Docking Bay 7 for complimentary breadsticks. For a terrified, humiliated, broken empire, it was too much. Empire ships began surrendering en masse, not to avoid destruction, but because they thought maybe, just maybe, there really were infinite breadsticks waiting. Hope. Or madness. At this point, nobody could tell. The Voltex Empire didn't collapse with a bang. It collapsed with a whimper. A soft, sad, thoroughly broken whimper that sounded suspiciously like a duck. By the end of the week, over 70% of their fleet had defected, either surrendering to Earth or just flying aimlessly, confused, their ships plastered with stickers saying things like, "Ask me about my free breadsticks." Quack approved. This vehicle makes wide turns and poor life choices. Entire star systems refused to send taxis. Formerly loyal governors replaced their imperial banners with crudely drawn duck flags. Empire High Command meetings descended into shouting matches over who had authorized tactical breadsticks in the first place. Morale reports were catastrophic. 1. Particularly damning report stated, current soldier loyalty level, somewhere between mildly annoyed and actively stuffing breadsticks into warp cores for fun. Meanwhile, on Ryvak 7, humanity threw a celebration so loud it interfered with long-range communications. 1,000 humans packed into the station's hangar danced in synchronized chaos to a playlist titled Songs to Invade Empires. To at the center of it all stood Corporal Jax, the same human who had started this avalanche by casually accepting my challenge with a granola bar in hand. Now he wore a custom jacket. On the back, stitched in bold, disrespectful lettering, Galaxy's heavyweight champion, no rematch. Up on the command deck, Admiral Monroe leaned against the railing, surveying the madness with a contented grin. Earth's High Command had just one item left on the agenda: make sure the Galaxy never forgot who did this to them. Monroe tapped the broadcast controls. Across every active Empire channel, military, civilian, diplomatic, a single unified transmission blazed into existence. The video showed Jax lounging in a deck chair, sunglasses on, sipping from a comically oversized drink with a curly straw. He waved lazily at the camera. "Hey, Empire," he drawled, voice carrying through every Imperial ship, station, and homeworld. "Next time you want to fight humanity." He leaned forward, dropping the sunglasses down just enough to reveal a mischievous glint. "Maybe train harder, or bring a bigger lunch." He toasted the camera. Behind him, in the background, a giant inflatable duck floated by, wearing a crown. The transmission ended with 3 words flashing across every Imperial screen: "Get wrecked, nerds." The Voltex Empire, unable to recover from the sheer scale of humiliation, collapsed into hundreds of tiny successor states. Some rebranded themselves immediately, desperate to distance from the quackening. Others tried to erase all historical records, but the memes were eternal. New alliances formed, old enemies turned friends. And humanity. They didn't seize power. They didn't install puppet governments. They didn't conquer. They just laughed, handed out more breadsticks, and went home. A year later, a new entry was quietly added to the Galactic Codex of Warfare. Never, under any circumstances, engage Earth in psychological operations. It was listed directly under Avoid Wrestling. Bears unless you're absolutely sure you're a bear too. As for me, Commander Valzor, former Spear of Conquest, I spent 6 months in a rehabilitation center, recovering from my injuries. Physical wounds heal. Pride? Not so much. They gave me a parting gift when I was discharged. A small, fluffy plush toy. A yellow duck wearing a tiny Imperial crown, holding a miniature breadstick. The tag simply read, "Good fight, big guy. Next time, bring snacks." Humanity. And somewhere out there among the stars, that inflatable duck still floats, crowned, victorious, eternal, a reminder to the Galaxy: never, ever underestimate a human with free time, duct tape, and a really stupid idea.